Uh, Good morning, Dr. Kotler. Good evening to one and all present here. On behalf of the Entrepreneurship Development Cell of St. Xavier's College, Kolkata, I would like to extend our gratitude and offer a warm welcome to one and all. We are honored to have with us today one of the most influential marketing experts of our time, Dr. Philip Kotler. Philip Kotler's contribution to the field of marketing have been groundbreaking, and his insights have shaped how businesses approach innovation, strategy, and growth. He is a visionary and a strategist, a mentor and a motivator, and a true champion of marketing excellence. He is known as the father of modern marketing and has authored Marketing Management, the most widely used textbook on marketing. We are beyond thrilled to have you join us, sir, and relay our experience, expertise, and journey to curious young minds. We are incredibly thankful to you for taking time out of your busy schedule for a session with us. On behalf of everyone at EDC, I wish all the attendees a great time learning. Over to you, sir.
Sriram, thank you so much for the introduction and greetings to everyone. There's a lot of work to be done in improving our marketing and our innovative abilities. And I praise your university for emphasizing the critical importance of innovation. If you don't innovate, you die. And I'll say things about that. You'll see on the cover page the third book called Entrepreneurial Marketing, which was just published, I would say, 3 weeks ago. And we're so excited about this concept of entrepreneurial marketing. And it differs from professional marketing. It adds to professional marketing that I will take the time to give you the highlights of our new thinking. And I will use a new model that has been developed for your marketing guiding. So let's move on. Okay. How do we respond to a rapidly changing environment? And of course, the world is changing at a very fast rate. Old businesses are dying, and new businesses are forming, and companies have to change with the times because the market opportunities are changing. And many companies, unfortunately, do not change. They say, well, we know what success is, we've had success, so we're going to stick to what we've known and done. And that's not enough. And too many companies, they focus on procedures and bureaucracy. They have been trained on how to be professional. And so therefore, they're going to do their best in the field of marketing to push out the product. I mean, that's how you're judged as a professional marketer. And we're saying that it's not enough to train people to be professional marketers. We have to train them to be entrepreneurial marketers. So let's move forward. Many ways to define an entrepreneur, but 3 things. 1, someone who is opportunity seeking, new opportunities. 2, risk taking. 3, ready to build a new network of collaborators. And the importance of thinking outside of your business, thinking ahead into the future, is shown in a number of ways. For example, Google says that its own employees can spend 20% of their working hours just thinking of new ideas and sharing them with the company. And that time has been so valuable to Google because it led to the development of Gmail and Google Maps and AdSense and so on. Now, I'm not saying that you tell your employees 20% of the time is for your own thinking out things, but handle that as you want. But we want our people, our employees, to be motivated and to have time to think broadly. I mentioned something about two companies called Target and Starbucks. Starbucks is brilliant at thinking more entrepreneurial. And they went to another company called Target, which is very much like a Walmart, sells everything, and said, look, let's build each other's brands. Let's serve, why don't you serve Starbucks in your store called Target, and vice versa. Things like that. We need entrepreneurial thinking. And the advantages of this new thinking, which I will describe, is to survive really as a company. For example, of the Fortune 500 companies that were listed in 1955, today only 60 companies exist of that group. I mean, to look at how many companies have disappeared, and these were big companies. And many small companies, they are the ones to look at and put our hopes on. Except I want to warn you that even there, the failure rate is very high. It's over 90% we're trying to encourage startup companies, innovative companies, and yet many of them don't make it. And then all of these companies must be practicing sustainability because the planet is at stake. So here's the beginning of the model I'm going to tell you about. And it has two clusters, the top cluster and the bottom cluster. And I'm going to go through the two clusters because it's essential to refer back to this model as we talk. The top cluster is about being creative and innovative. And the flow is this: if you've hired creative people, ideas will come up that can be turned in, a few of them can be turned into, they're worth turning into innovations. But it's not enough to create the innovation. You have to have, carry it out through entrepreneurship. And you must have a leadership in the organization that says, I welcome that test of that new idea, and so on. So CI leads to EL. And that's what we want to emphasize. Now, meanwhile, the company, if you have a company, is performing anyways without any new ideas. And that's the second cluster. In other words, the company has capital, which is being applied productively. Let's hope they are productive companies. All along, they are trying to improve things, hopefully. Even if they're not innovating, they're trying to improve what they're doing. And they have a professional sense, and the management carries out what the leadership wants to see happen. Now, notice there's an interaction between the top cluster and the bottom cluster. We might want to say some things about how creativity, C, influences productivity, P. In other words, if you go up and down, there's a relationship between how creativity will help productivity and how innovation will help improvement. See, the I leads to the I. How entrepreneurship will lead to more professional and better professional management. And that you hope that the leaders work with the managers very well. Now, that's not the complete picture. Do you notice there are 4 other terms that we want to say things about? One is we put marketing to the left of the creative process because marketers really are being hired to create further demand. And we also add humanity to the upper right because the basic thing is you are a servant trying to help people lead a better life. Always remember that marketing is not about just selling product X. It's about making life more livable, more satisfying, more humane. So that we want to plug that in. But now if you go to the bottom cluster, you see that's being influenced continuously by technology. In other words, our productivity is continuously affected by new technologies and so on. And then at the end, we hope to run a company with good finance. Now, we're going to say something during my talk about the relationship between marketing, which is in your upper left, and finance in your bottom right, because there's a big conflict between marketing and finance. Who runs that relationship? Normally, it's run by finance, because the finance person is asked each time, each period, prepare a budget for everyone, including marketing. And if finance doesn't like marketing and says, marketing is misspent money. So therefore, we need a very good relationship between marketing and finance of self-respect, of mutual respect. And I'll say some things about that. And then if you look at the lower left, technology, it has a big impact on humanity. Because as a matter of fact, right now with the newest development, which is called Chat GPT, and I hope all your students are playing around with that, there are some concerns about where it will go. We know it should go to help us be more efficient and to learn more fast. However, are we creating a computer that may become conscious or sentient? I mean, the computer seems so smart today because we put a question to it and say, compose an ad showing a dog riding a horse. And that's what it will do for you. It will create a video for you if you want. However, Elon Musk and 1,100 other scientists recently said, let's slow down on Chat GPT because we may be creating a monster, a computer that gets consciousness, self-consciousness, and wonders why he should work for you. So there is some concern about that, and all of you who are younger will face that question about making sure we're controlling our computers and they don't control us. All right, let's move on. What are the dynamics that make marketing what it is? And I say they consist of 5 Ds and 4 Cs. And then I'll show you how you use them. The 5 Ds are the 5 drivers. Technology is a driver of change. Politics and legal issues drive. Social cultural issues drive. The economy drives and the market drives. Okay, those are the 5 drivers. And they're all influencing 4 things. They're creating change, and then the 3 Cs. What are the 3 Cs? This is the work you do with them as a marketer. You have to know your competitors and define who they are. You must focus on the customers to the extent you're customer obsessed. And you're always thinking of your company and what's good for your company. I would add another C that we didn't do that much in the model, and that is collaborators. Because a company always needs collaborators to work together, suppliers, distributors, and so on, and they may be outside, not owned by the firm, but the advertising agency would be a collaborator. And so you might even say there's 4 Cs plus change. Regardless, let's move on. Now, I could talk about all the things happening with the 5 drivers. This is just a sketch, like in political and legal, pay attention to the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, the 17 SDGs, because banks now, in giving out loans, they're asking, is this a worthwhile company to make a loan to? What is its ESG? What are they doing with the environment, the society, and the governance? Okay, so why do I mention that? Because there are opportunities in the political, legal things happening. And certainly the economy is full of opportunities. One thing I've noticed is a lot of people in my country are now working in a gig economy. A gig economy means they're not really in the normal firm, which pays for your health care and everything else. They don't have health care. They aren't the responsibility of the company they're working for. Look at that. Look at the circular economy and its implications of getting rid of waste, getting rid of pollution, and regenerating nature. So the world is full of opportunities. That's basically what I would say with that page. So what we're trying to develop is a model which takes us from the 5 drivers, 5D, to the 4 Cs, where we're making our decisions and so on. So now I can take you to the big model. Now, there's a big model, and the advantage of the big model is that it puts so many variables together in one place, because never think that marketing is just one feature and it's a solo feature. It doesn't have to relate to anything else in the company. No, this model takes care of all of that. But of course, you see the basic 2 clusters, don't you? And by the way, in the middle is a thing called operations. It's like a gear. The operations combines the first cluster, which is the creative one, and the second one, the performing one. But what are those other things that, look at the upper left. It's called the dynamics. It says your job is to take the 5 drivers and turn them into the 4 plans you're laying down, your company for the and how you're handling the competitors and the 4 Cs. Okay. Now on the upper right, your competitiveness will be a function of PDB. You don't see the definition, so just write this down. By PDB, we mean positioning, differentiation, and branding, the essence of marketing. PDB, positioning well, and DNR, and then it leads to the 9 E's, which are the 9 elements of marketing, and I'm going to get to that. Now, at the very bottom, you see something saying the past. Now, the past is our history with our BS, which is our balance sheet, and our income statement. In other words, the marketers must be aware of their impact on the balance sheet and the income statement, but those are in the past. In other words, you should know what the impact has been, but that's not the future. The future depends on how you handle and how you are going to create market value in the future. So if you need to see more about the model, you'll look at the book, which I hope will become more and more available. So let me get more into the details. This is what we call marketing architecture. And we distinguish 9 elements to marketing. 3 big topics: strategy, which you have to prepare; tactics, which you have to implement to carry out the strategy; and then the brand work. And the work you do with strategy is segmentation, targeting, and positioning. That's the strategic part, because you got to decide who are you trying to serve and why, and where are they, and what they should see, what they want to see you as. Excuse me. So segmentation, targeting, positioning. And then there are 3 more elements: differentiation of your offer, because it shouldn't look like your competitor's offer. It has to have some overlap with what your competitor is offering, but it has to have some differentiation as well. And you have a whole marketing mix of product, price, and place, and promotion that you are going to develop as your tactics, and selling was always be behind all that. And the brand has got to show three things: service, process, and value. And much more could be said about this model, but let's move on to some more tangible things. So here's the key contribution of what this book is trying to offer. We're saying a company should be both entrepreneurial and professional, okay? Now, there's three states you don't want to be stuck in. One is to be a vigorous dwarf, which means that you're very entrepreneurial, but not professional at all. You're just a startup. You're wildly interested in this new thing, but you don't have professional skills. So you're kind of a dwarf. You're not fully formed. Or you're a zombie where you're neither starting up anything and not even good at professional. You're a zombie. Or you're a sluggish giant. You're a big company and you're very good at being professional, but you don't have entrepreneurial. So we want you to be an omni-star. Companies that have converged both entrepreneurship and professional marketing and ready for the future. And the job to be done is to handle three big functions. The company's going to have managers of each function. You certainly should have a customer manager. You have, if a startup may not have customers, of course, but when it does, you got to relate to them. Not only relate, you know that most good marketing is done by your customers, not by you. As a matter of fact, our advertising and our sales force and so on, they're important. But basically, if your customers aren't satisfied, you're going to fail. You want your customers to be not only satisfied, but to be advocates. And you got to know if you have a high net promotion score, which is a measure of how many of your customers like you so much that they talk about you and praise you to others on software. In their very software activities, they mention you. So customer management. Then there's people who are engaged in product management because you always have to improve your products and bring in new products. And then everything should be about having a brand and managing it well, because that's the meaning. That carries the meaning of the company, the value of the company to people. Okay. So let's start with creativity. Creativity is a matter of generating ideas. Most of them will be dropped in the course of examining them, but a few might sound like they're worth some innovation work. And you know what that means. That means you design a model. For example, let's say you're a car company and you want to introduce an electric car. Now, you should not just build a factory and make a car and then hope it will be popular. You should be creating a augmented reality of the car on the computer. It will actually be visible for a person who might be interested in an electric car. He'll put on glasses and he will see himself going to the car, opening the door, starting the engine, and driving, because you have created a tangible experience. And then you ask him, what do you think? And he says, I love it. Where's the car? I want to buy it. And if enough people sound that way, then you can build a factory with some confidence. So the whole idea of trying to use the computer to create any picture of the new offering, to make it tangible, to experience it really, is important. And of course, if the innovation works, it's really amounts to a solution that will lead to improvement in the lives of the customers. So we have 5 problems that come up, and these are the ones I have to deal with now. One is the misalignment of marketing and finance, for which we have more to say. Secondly, a disharmonious relationship between marketing and sales. Now, let me just stop on that one for a moment, because I can just put it to you this way. I wrote an article at in the Harvard Business Review some years ago called "Ending the War Between Marketing and Sales." Why would there be a war? Well, the sales force always feels that they should get more of the budget than the marketing people. As a matter of fact, historically, what was marketing, if not only just sales? There was no marketing. There was a market, but there was no marketing group. There was a sales group, and the sales group wanted some help. What did they want? They wanted someone maybe to make some brochures that they could send to customers. Well, they didn't want to do the brochure, so some guy was hired to make. Call him a marketing person or a designer or something. They also needed copy. So the words you'd use when you talk to customers or send them brochures. And some research. Where are our customers? Where do they live? All right. So marketing started as a small part of the sales problem, having the sales force. And still today, the relationship sometimes is bad because there is a marketing VP and a sales VP. Should the sales VP report to the marketing VP or to management separately? And my own preference is for sales to be under marketing nowadays, under what we call the Chief Marketing Officer, CMO, who reports directly to the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer. But here's what happens. The salespeople say, you say you're doing good advertising, but my customers don't remember seeing your ad. And secondly, why are you setting so high a quota for me as a salesperson when you made the price too high for the product? In other words, the salespeople don't even agree with the price that marketing and finance set on the product. So one of the first things I do in a company is I want 2 meetings before I consult them as part of consulting. I want a separate meeting with the marketing guy and a separate meeting with the sales guy. And I asked the marketing guy in my meeting with him or her what they think of sales, how well do they get along. And I do the same with the salesperson separately. I can immediately tell whether they're fighting and whether the company is splitting and paralyzed and so on. And so I can get to work on that problem. All right, the third thing is weak integration of online and offline marketing. Most companies were always offline. I mean, they had shops and stores and so on. And now that we have the digital revolution, you can be so good at online that you don't need the stores. How many people now are able to order? I know we're going to be ordering cars that way online. We'll know enough about a car to know how to just place the order. So the relationship there has to be worked out. And then human capital. Are people just being used in a company? We pay them something and expect a great deal, even overtime, even unpaid overtime. Do we treat our human capital well? Do we train them well? Do we just hire them and expect them to know what to do without much training? And there's a lack of humanity sometimes in marketing and recognizing The whole point being to create a population that is healthier, happier, and more educated. And for that, I've written a lot on what I call the Nordic capitalism. Can't get into it now, but the Nordic countries of Sweden, Denmark, Norway, Finland, and Iceland rate as having the healthiest people, the most educated people, and the happiest people in the world on all those three measures. So if people say capitalism is not working well, it works in the Nordic form where you don't have to pay for your education. It's free, your college education. You don't have to pay for your health. It's all covered by the taxes, especially the taxes on the rich, period. But if you have a capitalism that doesn't make these things free, then you have people who are worrying all the time, am I earning enough money to pay for a medical surgery that I didn't expect, and it's going to cost $50,000? And I have 3 kids, and how am I going to send them to college? So that kind of capitalism, where the rich can keep getting richer and the poor get poorer, and there's no middle class left, is not what you want. But there's an answer. Capitalism has an answer when it's Nordic. All right, let's move on. Let's go back to the relationships. And I've already mentioned them, and that you should go horizontally to carry out each one, and then there's vertical relationships. But let me move on. Because every company has departments and divisions. Too much of the time, there are silo mentalities. What we mean by silo is when some function does not relate to another one. They think everything could be done within the function that they need, and they don't connect enough. And we've seen that happen with marketing and finance, and that technology and marketing sometimes don't work together. And the reason for this model is to create, the aim is to de-silo them, to have our entrepreneurial marketers be so broad-minded as to see the big picture. Now, I would say that a company can be conservative or progressive in how it operates. And the distinction is whether you're market-driven or market-driving. And you can be successful in both cases. Coca-Cola is a market-driven company. It does a good job and keeps that bottle sold everywhere in the world. But if you're market driving, you go beyond Coca-Cola. You recognize that you can make other kinds of drinks. You could even sell orange juice. You surround your startup with more things to do. You're more entrepreneurial. Now, here's one story that you know Airbnb. And it started as finding out that some people had an extra bedroom that could be rented. And that company grew and grew by listing and contacting people who would let out their bedroom, to now, if you're going to use Airbnb, maybe you don't want to go living in a bedroom. Maybe you want to live in a treehouse or a cave or a boat or a condominium or a villa. In other words, they're now renting a night at all of these spots. And the fact is, by their broadest thinking, they now are larger than 3 big hotels, Marriott, Hilton, and Intercontinental, who are all hurting from the loss of customers who want to go to sleep at an Airbnb. So that's the kind of navigation you want, progressive navigation. Now, I want to say some more about customers, because we all know that they are better informed than ever. They are able to do web rooming to research any product. In fact, they're in a store, and before they buy that new computer, they're looking at other things on their cell phone and deciding whether that same computer is cheaper in another shop. And they're going to showrooms. The showrooming too. Companies ought to do some showrooming so I can touch the product without necessarily buying it. And so these consumers are demanding, and they go through 5 stages as you try to reach and get new buyers. And I have this is the model we developed in what is called Marketing 5.0, which is a very popular book now. We've had 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, 5.0, but 5.0 put the model as a 5-stage model. And just to remind you, how do you get some prospects to be aware of your company? How can you make your company appealing? At which point the prospect who wants to know more, so he goes through a third stage, ask, and you better be aware as a company of what he might or she might ask to know about your company further. What could they turn to find out a little more? Have something available there. And then finally, they answered the questions they have in their mind, and they buy for the first time they act. Hopefully, they repeatedly buy, which may lead to customer loyalty. The customer loyalty is defined as stop. You no longer think about who to buy from. You want to just buy again and again from the same firm. But that doesn't mean you could be a loyal customer but not an advocate. So the top stage, the one you really want to work on achieving, is the advocate. And the system of net promotion score, which you can look up in Wikipedia, net promotion score, is to give a 10 to any customer in your mind who is so happy with you that he or she is always talking about you on software and everywhere. That deserves 10. Now, if someone is very enthusiastic about you but never talking about you, ask them to talk about you. Ask them to be an influencer. And the whole field of influencer marketing is growing very much. Very key now. And maybe they say, good, I'll be willing to talk about it to my friends. So give them a number 9, because they're not a 10, but they're a 9. And then an 8, if they're sort of, maybe they may do it, maybe not. Anyways, if you have enough net promotion score, you're in good shape. So that's how we work with that system. But let's move on. As an innovator, and your college is especially interested in training its people to think innovatively, and I can say a great deal about it, but I'm going to be superficial compared to what you really want to know. But sometimes we say broadly, there's 2 ways to be innovative. You could look at what you're good at and then find ways to make a product for certain markets using your strengths. On the other hand, you could look at what's happening in the world and where there's a market need that is not filled, and whether you might have the advantages and resources to be the one filling it. Now, you should do both. Certainly, you're going to have special skills, know what they are and what they can be turned into, and certainly have that outward look for new opportunities. And then that means you're going to be innovating something, which you're going to start something, you're going to grow it, and then develop it. And I have a list of things that come up as issues when you start. If you fail just in the starting points because you have a weak entrepreneurial mindset, an unclear vision and mission, an unclear strategy and tactics, poor planning and evaluation, things like that. And then if you start up and you made it, but you're not growing, I have a list of why you're not growing. And after you grow a lot, if you still don't grow further, there's other problems. We won't get into that now. That's in that book of ours. But here's a little story. It's very interesting. It reminds me of Japan, because Japan has always been very good at improving things. if you study their company, Toyota, do you know that they claim that everyone in the factory comes up with ideas? I mean, maybe they don't hire people who won't have who don't have ideas, but they get so many ideas on improving all the time. Now, maybe improving is not enough. Maybe innovation is also necessary. And now the Japanese are going to keep improving things, but they're going to also innovate. So here's one story of a Japanese company, Uniqlo, fashion company. And if you're going to be in fashion, you better offer some fashion selections. Now, that's enough to make you a fashion company, show pictures of dresses and clothing. But they want to be an innovative fashion company. So they offer also heat tech products to keep the body warm. In other words, the clothes do more than just being clothes. They have maybe warming capacity. And then they created airism products that are quick, that if you buy something made with that feature, it will be quick drying when you want to clean it, and so on. Maybe you just put it in water and it dries and it's done. That's the cleaning operation. UV cut as sunscreen for the body. So they're always thinking not only of normal fashion items, but they're innovating along the time. Netflix, what a beautiful story that is, of a company that went into streaming movies. And the main thing is, it was really just a DVD company where they would send you a movie by mail, and then you return the mail. You pay to rent movies. Now that Netflix now has 37 million new memberships. Well, they had 37 million new memberships in 2020. Leadership. Yeah, see, there's a relationship between having the right leader, and it was the right person. It was the CEO was Reed, and Reed kept saying there's more we can do with the company than just send out DVDs. All right, so what is leadership? It's the capacity to translate a vision into reality, to translate the vision into several concrete goals, and to develop the strategy for getting those goals operating, and to implement the tactics. And we've said this, all of it in the form of customer management, product management, and brand management. So a little more on this relationship then between the entrepreneurial cluster and the professional cluster. Actually, let me just go back and say this. I had a very interesting experience with P&G, Procter and Gamble, which you know a lot about that too. They make most of the cleaning products for homes and diapers for babies and all that. So many products. I showed them this chart, and they said, you know, you're saying that a company that has professional marketers, that's not enough. They need entrepreneurial marketers. Yes, I've said that. In other words, you're saying we should add another few people to the marketing department their job is to be entrepreneurial. The others are just the professionals pushing out the product. And then he said to me, based on his experience at Procter & Gamble, he says, you know, it isn't two levels. Procter & Gamble only hires entrepreneurial marketers. It's a fiction that we have a set of we don't want any people to be just professional pushers of the product. However skilled they are, we want to hire entrepreneurial thinkers. And I don't know if that could be true of a whole company with so many marketing people and they're all entrepreneurial, but that's a way of saying, hey, isn't it maybe really one level with everyone being hired to be entrepreneurial? Okay, let's move on. Now, I'm very interested in this relationship between marketers and finance people. And that book does a marvelous job. If you are, I've always told my students at Northwestern University at Kellogg, please major in marketing and finance if you want to get to the top of a company. Because if you may be satisfied being just a marketing researcher or a salesperson, fine. But if you want to be open to moving up, why shouldn't companies, CEOs come? The CEOs are usually accountants, finance people, or lawyers. Why can't marketing people run companies? Well, Howard Schultz at Starbucks was a marketing genius, and he was the CEO. So, but if you're a CMO and you want to go higher, know your finance. What do I mean? Know the BS, balance sheet, the IS, the income statement, the cash flow, CF, the market value measurement, and know about gross margin, operating margin, net profit margin, EBITDA, and all that. You can read those things. Now, I'm going to tell you a story because I was involved with this story. And it does the best job of showing how important it is to get marketing and finance to work together. Raja Manar from India, who's now a good friend, is the CMO of MasterCard, which, along with Visa, are the two leading companies with credit cards. And he called me in 2013 to do some work with him. I wanted to elevate the marketing division and make it more strategic, and to raise brand awareness about MasterCard. He observed that the CFO did not work directly with him because he's the CMO, the Chief Marketing Officer. Even though marketing was one of the top 3 expenses in the income statement. So he wanted to change that. So he added a finance team member into his marketing team. So he could really have someone who thought finance all the time as part of his marketing team. And he asked him to form a group to use a formula to measure ROI for marketing activities. Now, that's the biggest thing we have to do. For the CEO, the head of the company, to believe in marketing, he wants to see the ROI of marketing, the return on investment. And measuring that is very hard. And I'll tell you a little side story before we conclude this one. Procter & Gamble, going back to them, they took a big chunk of their normal budget, which was spent on big commercials, 30-second commercials. They took a big chunk of that money and said, let's spend it on social media. And some people objected. They said, no, who's going to use social media at the time? Anyways, they spent money on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, every one of them. And they finally learned what worked. And then they reduced the budget for software, because instead of the budget wasting a lot of money, they found out where it was wasted, and then they weren't going to use the software where it wasn't working. So one of the things when you go into business, yes, if you don't know which software to use, spend money on each of them carefully, see what works, and stop spending it on what doesn't work, and then blend the traditional with the part of software that really works for you. So that's what he did. And now remember, back to MasterCard, it is a B2B to C brand, right? Because MasterCard wants companies to accept MasterCard. So they're in the business of business. MasterCard is a business selling to other businesses. Please carry our MasterCard. But they also want to get to the consumer. So they have 2 types of B2B and B2C. And he wanted his people to carry out experiential marketing in the regional offices. He asked the regional offices to measure the impact of the campaign using the ROI measurement system. I can't tell you their measurement system. That's private stuff. But as a result, MasterCard's brand value rose from US $69 billion to $112 billion. So to Roger's credit, to his credit, he even wrote a book. I will show you the cover, but I didn't add it to the picture. Please read his book, Quantum Marketing, Mastering the New Marketing Mindset for Tomorrow's Consumers, because he offers in the book all the things you need to know about 3D marketing and all the new tools we have, mathematical and otherwise, to improve our marketing. Now, I'm going to get toward closing where we are. Marketing has definitely become more digitalized and advanced, and using the software and TikTok and all the other things. And we're able, as a result, to do more customization and personalization where we know each customer. Now, this chart summarizes what I really said. Namely, it's not just marketing management, it's technology-based marketing coming into your marketing management to do three things: to help you perform better with your customers, with your products, and your brands. So I'm going to end up with this interesting little chart, which came out of a book I wrote a few years ago called H2H Marketing, which is just a way of saying human to human marketing, how to really be people selling to people and serving people. The three types of marketing to avoid are unethical marketing, inane marketing, which is silly marketing, it just doesn't get you anywhere, and wasteful marketing. So marketing has to avoid those three types to be H to H marketing, person to person marketing, where value is being created and transmitted to other people. And I usually end a talk by saying within 5 years, if you're in the same business you are in now, you're going to be out of business. And I will add that if your company is not practicing sustainability, not only will you be out of business, but the planet will be out of business too. Thank you very much. And I look forward to maybe 2 questions that might come from your audience. Shivam, thank you for this opportunity to talk to the students.
Thank you so much, sir. It is an honor to hear from you. So over to Ivan, she'll be asking you a couple of questions from the audience.
First of all, thank you so much, sir, for your wise words. I'm sure that each one of us present here would take back tons of knowledge from this session. So, sir, our audience does have a couple of questions. So, sir, if you permit me, I would like myself to address that to you.
Sure.
Okay, sir. So, sir, the first question is, so nowadays we see a lot of companies get instant fame because of advertisements that break the charts. But sadly, those companies get overshadowed very, very soon. So, sir, in this era, what kind of marketing should a company implement to ensure that they are here to stay for long?
Yeah, that is the question we should always ask because, take the marketing mix. How important is, we don't have to say it's really only 4 Ps, product, price, place, and promotion, because people often are selling service products as well. And there we say there's 3 more Ps when you're selling you're selling an airplane ride, or you're selling a hotel reservation. Service should have been part of the 4 Ps, but we had to add some other things. But there's a question of the traditional idea was, a company is going to succeed with good, heavy advertising, broken into two things, 30-second commercials, which are expensive, but they say who we are, and then a lot of regional and local advertising, and then having salespeople and having good retailing, if you're a retailer. So I've made comments about those three things. For example, I find out that I think too many companies, with respect to advertising, are blowing a lot of money on poor commercials that are hardly remembered. You know, the cost of a commercial, a 30-second commercial, is so expensive to produce it well, and then to buy the media to carry it. You wonder sometimes if the money couldn't be better spent in more high-touch advertising on the software approach, where we know someone, we know when they're ready to buy and what to say to them, and customize and personalize. And as far as the sales force, I'm going to make a prediction that the sales force will get smaller over time, because more customers do not want to see salespeople now. They can find out, the consumer is so informed, the consumer can find out anything they want about that company and its competitors. And the salesman is just there, a talking machine trying to sell, who's not necessarily in so much in your interest, but in his interest to make a sales. So some drug companies have cut their sales force. They used to use their sales force basically to entertain the doctors, which is now being prescribed and prohibited, where you take the doctor out to an expensive restaurant so that he will prefer your brand of that medicine. There's a lot of limits put on that, and the Indians should be careful, because they have good medical products and sell them around the world. And then retailing, companies that run big retail units and so on. What are they like? Are they located in shopping centers? Well, what's happening to the shopping centers? Shopping centers are, in many cases, some of them have died, been emptied out. My wife and I went to a shopping center yesterday, and she says, you know, it's so interesting. I used to be so excited about going to a shopping center, but I know pretty much what they carry, and I can deal with them by just my computer and knowing what I want to see. But if people are going to come into a department store or a store, how is it designed? Is it bright? Is it interesting? And are the clerks just there sort of numb and uninterested in you? Or are they happy to see you and help you and so on and so forth? So there's a lot. When you raise the question about how to be a successful company, you got to examine how you appear to everyone and put yourself in the mind of a customer visiting your own facilities. Boy, manage by walking around is the real answer. You're not going to learn a lot by staying in your office. Go out and be the customer of your own business, secretly if necessary. You'll be surprised what you're going to see. I'll take another question.
Thank you so much, sir, for answering this question so comprehensively and with so much clarity. So the second question is, how do you approach customer acquisition and retention in the early stages of a new venture? And what tactics have you found to be particularly effective?
If I understand the question, it has to do with finding a customer for the first time, some customer, and how do you treat that customer on the first meeting? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Well, you could be overdoing or underdoing it. We know what an underdoing would be, where you just take it for granted that you're doing a favor to him, offering your product to him, and that's a terrible attitude. But to write, I think a decent letter. We are very pleased that you had an interest in our company. We would welcome any comments you have from your first experience, any ideas you want to share with us. Here's our phone number. Here's our email. And that's a nice way to get it started. Do you want to send them a gift, a surprise, something? It depends on the business. I suppose you could be cute and the right surprise might say, hey, that's an interesting one. I just wanted to buy X and I got Y along with it. So just give it some thought about how to handle the first time. We're too casual about people joining our business as a new customer without thinking of how to treat them. I think it's a good question. Well, thank you very much for those questions. I hope you figure out what you want your role to be. Your dream is, what is your dream? If you're in marketing, what would you like to achieve? For whom and how? And you're in a very good university that will equip you with the tools you need to be a success at whatever you choose to be a success in. Thank you very much. I'll say goodbye.
So I'll just present the vote of thanks. After such an enlightening and inspiring session, it's an absolute honor and my pleasant duty to propose the vote of thanks on behalf of the Entrepreneurship Development Cell of St. Xavier's College, Calcutta. So, your profound knowledge and expertise in marketing, coupled with your passion and commitment to the subject, have left all of us with a wealth of insight and ideas to apply in our own professional lives. We're grateful for the opportunity to have learned from one of the greatest marketing minds of our time, and will strive to implement your teachings in our work to achieve greater success. Thank you, sir, for taking out time from your busy schedule and sharing your knowledge and experience with us. A special mention to our respected principal, Reverend Dr. Dominic Savio, SJ, and Vice Principals, Reverend Dr. Joseph Kulindai, SJ, Reverend Dr. Peter Arokyam, SJ, and Professor Bertram De Silva for their encouraging and persuasive approach to the keeping up the Xaverian reputation. I would further like to thank our faculty advisor, Dr. Roop Kumar Mitra, for his leading supervision and inspiration at every juncture. A big thank you to our audience for being patient and interactive and putting forth such compelling questions. Last but not the least, I would like to extend a deep sense of appreciation for all the support and timely implementation provided by the members of the Entrepreneurship Development Cell. We owe the success of this session to you. Once again, thank you for tuning in. We hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you very much, both to the students and to the faculty members who attended. I appreciate the work all of you are doing, and let's make this a better world together. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.